Hey, it's Matt Makowski. You're watching the 3 Count Podcast.
Do you wanna get live with me? Do you really wanna ride with me? I'm in the club.
Welcome everybody to another great edition of the 3 Count Podcast presents Now Entering. I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. And by now, with this being season 5, I would just hope you say with me, I am your Sherpa, because like your tribal chief, acknowledge me. But like every good Sherpa, you gotta have someone who's been there, done that, and can do it more efficient than you can. And that's why it's never about me. It's about who's entering. So who's entering the ring today? You can find this man at Rad Pro. You can find this man at ICW, Pizza Party, HTO, Beyond, JCW, PPW, Grind, ROH. He is a mixed martial artist. He is a force to be reckoned with. He is Weapon X Matt Makowski.
Thank you for that.
Yo, hey, so no man, so we met at Grind, right, a couple months back. And I was so fascinated because you and I were talking, and I made the comment to you. I was like, "Yeah, I'm turning 39 this year," and you just looked at me. You're like, "I'm right there with you." Like, what do you mean? It's like then I think about it. I was like, "Oh, we the same age."
Yeah, close.
I was like, "Wow." I was like, "This dude," because I started pro wrestling in 2020. And so I saw, like, I think you've been active like about 5-6 years now. So it's like, I'm like, oh, that's just someone I could talk to now. I can actually kind of like relate to, and someone who lived a whole nother life, especially with you having like this mixed martial arts background. I was former military, so like
Yeah.
I understand like the whole wave, and I'm like, bro, like this is so crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I have so much respect now for more so than I did before. Obviously, having done this for a few years now, for everyone that does pro wrestling, kind of gets out there, it gets in the ring. But definitely I have just it's a little bit higher for anybody that's like pushing, a plus 35, like mad respect. It's just like it's not it's not necessarily a young it's not it's a
It's
young
not an old man.
person's game.
Yeah, yeah, it's not an old man
Eloquent snake.
sport. It definitely is true. No, it's crazy because like it's like I was saying, right? Is that you've lived a whole life before pro wrestling. I have lived a whole life before pro wrestling. And when you get in, you have like this different mindset of like pro wrestling. And it's something I've noticed, right? Like you're not seeing like your character is very much grounded in who you are, but
Yeah.
it's like you understand, like, I'm not taking these, like, high risk, super big bumps because it's not necessary. Plus you're like you said, you're a lot older, and I'm in the same point where I'm like, "Listen, dude, I lived a whole life in the military. I did unnecessary things.
Yeah.
I'm really not trying to do all this." My character's like a ground tactician, like, he just wants to, break you down and just find your weaknesses, and I'm like, "I'm really not trying to." You're not gonna see me do I can do a 450 splash, but you're not gonna see me hit one in a match because it's not necessary.
I mean, yeah, like I will. I'm not gonna say I'm gonna pull out a 450 or anything, but yeah, I try to save the big stuff for. I mean, I get this is a. I don't know. I try to save it, which is kind of like on the independence is probably not the right mentality, because you kind of have to be like putting everything out there all the time, because there's only so many people like seeing your stuff every time, so it's like what are you really saving anything for? But I mean, I'll say like I definitely try to I make educated choices when it comes to like what I want to do in terms of, and a lot of that has to do with my body and just making sure that I can continue to do this. Um, I had a couple months ago I just came back from an ACL tear, so like I don't really want to be on the shelf again. I think there are plenty of ways to have great matches, exciting matches without maybe putting yourself at risk. I mean, we put ourselves at risk every single time the bell rings. It doesn't even matter. Like I got hurt doing some normal thing. Like it wasn't even anything crazy. And so that really that stuff can happen anytime. So yeah, obviously you can create like a higher level of danger if you want, and if the match calls for it, the scenario calls for something, and I think it'll hit right, then I'm usually game for just about anything. But yeah, it's not like I think I can be entertaining in other ways. There's a lot of guys that do certain stuff, and I feel like I bring like a unique. I can at least bring a unique however move set, just kind of a different vibe to my matches. So
Yeah.
I kind of try to stick with that.
And that's the thing for like me, like I know like I've grown, like I had like a wrestling background prior to even just like getting into like in the military, like,
Yeah.
and then, even spent a few years like in Hawaii training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well as in like
Hmm.
taking some active classes in like Muay Thai. But it's like for like my wrestling character, I want him to kind of just be sporadic where people just like they don't expect things to happen that he's gonna throw out, and it just adds to the craziness of who Red Dog the mercenary is. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, it's so weird because it's like you're so focused on adding layers to the character as far as like a move set goes, because and then you're like, I don't want to, like you had a perfect example, right? Like you said you want to save those for like big matches or big moments. And like
Hmm.
I see it's weird because like today, like when I'm watching wrestling, whether it's indie or we can even call it, WWE or AEW top
Hmm.
player, I guess. Um, it's so weird because it's like the move structures all kind of seem the same, and there's really like you're like, okay, well here comes the big bump, or here comes the big moves, and you're like kind of calling it, and you're like, I just wish to see something just that would just throw me off. Like, I'll put a perfect example right there. So, today, for those who are wondering, Pro Wrestling Grind has their show that they just did on
Hmm.
Saturday, playing right now. Actually, at this moment that we're talking, but Miracle Generation and Main Event had this match, right?
Yeah.
And Main Event hits this big move, and I'm like, oh, this is it. Hey, we going home. It's crazy. And then one, two, and then Justin Waller
Ah,
pulls him
yeah.
out, pulls the ref out, and I was like,
Oh.
"Oh!" I was like, "That got me," and everybody else around me was just like, "Hmm, we've seen this before," and I was like, Why am I the only one that popped?"
I mean, I think that's a good point in general when it comes to like independent wrestling, and was part of what kind of drew me in. Like I actually discovered independent wrestling kind of late in the late 2000s with Chikara. They're kind of based out of Philly. And like a friend of mine that was training at my MMA gym was going to this event and was like, "Hey, do you want to come?" I was a huge wrestling fan as a kid. It's a big Bret Hart guy, Undertaker, all that stuff. And yeah, when I went to this independent wrestling show, it like blew my mind. I did not know that like this is what professional wrestling could be, and that really just kind of hooked me, and I always credit that for the motivation. I mean, it was years ago, and it took me a while to kind of get to the point where I was like, I'm gonna try this myself, but
Yeah.
it's definitely planted the seeds. Um, I went to, I don't know if you ever heard of King of Trios. It was it's basically the WrestleMania for Chikara. They'd bring in
Mm,
people from all over the world, and like big names. It was like, it was Chikara's WrestleMania, and it was like usually a 3 event weekend, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday thing. And yeah, that was my first experience. Like I was seeing like the Young Bucks, El Generico. Um, it was just crazy, and I couldn't believe it. And um so kind of like what you're saying is like definitely sometimes, especially, I guess, I think it's I don't like talking shit about anybody's product or anything like that, but like definitely some things can get like repetitive, or like you said, there's very predictable. Everyone likes to be surprised, and I feel like definitely like there's a lot of that on the independents. I would say with AEW's like kind of how they started, and almost kind of was born from like the independents in a way. I get that vibe watching AEW, more so than maybe other uh, television wrestling. Not to say there isn't other great wrestling out there, but um, I tend to, and I know a lot of the people, I guess, that work there, and that's kind of part of the reason why I kind of lean towards AEW when it comes to like my if I'm gonna watch wrestling on television or what
Mm.
have you.
No. That's actually that's really funny. Like, what was the moment though that you got hooked and you're like, all right, it's time for me to become a join this pro wrestling thing.
Yeah, I mean, so like ever since I don't remember the exact moment per se, but I would after that weekend in I think it was maybe March at the time of spring 2009. Um, I I would kind of peruse like the website for like I would just kind of check out the Wrestle Factory website, which is the school for Chikara, and just kind of like I was just curious, I was just looking, and then I don't know, I kind of like I was a big fan. I was going to a lot of the shows locally, and then Chikara did this thing where they like shut down for a while, and actually they kind of weren't in the public eye much. So I kind of fell off during that a little bit, and then it came back. I started going again, and I had been done with competing in mixed martial arts at this point, and I really just like needed like a new something new for me to kind of pursue, and again, it was always this thing I was like kicking around, like I want to try wrestling, Um, and the Wrestle Factory made it like real kind of easy, and it was like a slow roll. There was like these like introductory lessons, and there was like a free workshop. It's
Mm.
like come in and check it out. It was like check out the school or check out the training, and then even from there it was like a very like because pro wrestling training is like can be really scary. At least it kind of used to be like okay, give us $5,000, and then it's like what the that's like what the hell, like that's a strange model, I'll tell you. But I don't know, maybe a lot of schools, I don't know how a lot of schools still kind of operate, but like anyway, there was like a 7-week course for like a couple $100 or whatever, like $200, and I was like, what do I like the workshop, let me try this out. And then I did that. It kind of just kind of snowballed into, all right, I'm ready to kind of commit to the big thing, and sign up for that. And yeah, it kind of just went from there. That was in like 2016. So again, it was a pretty big gap there, but yeah, that's kind of when it got going.
It's funny for me because like geez man, it's crazy because like I think like 2017 my daughter, because at the time like I got pretty big, like I was like fat, and my daughter told me I was getting squishy. And so I was like, I need to go to the gym. I need to start working out. And I think it was
Yeah.
2016 when she said that. And in 2017, like our gym had opened up and in like my town when I was living in Maryland, actually, in this place called Catonsville. So I went there to this gym called Retro Fitness and I started training and I was like got in really good shape. And then randomly I just happened to see this guy with a green t-shirt that said that was like John Cena, right? And I was
Uh-huh.
like, yo, okay. So him and I started chatting back and forth.
Yeah, yeah.
And, then I was like, "Yo," I started talking about wrestling, and then randomly I kept seeing the same dude, like, pop up in, like, my grocery stores.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
I was at the time, I had left my job, and I went to work for actually, people gonna find this out for the first time, Kraft Heinz. Like, I was the mac and cheese dude for a long time.
Uh-huh.
And so, uh, yeah, I started seeing this dude randomly in all my grocery stores, and so finally I sat down one day and talked to him, and I was like, "Hey, you're Chris, right?" And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "What do you do?" And he was just like, "Oh, I'm a wrestler." I was like pro
Yeah.
wrestling?" And he's like, "Not exactly." I was like, "Oh, I got you." And so, uh, yeah, he was like, "Yo, you wanna come check out one of our shows?" I was like, "Bet." And so, like, I remember walking in and just seeing a ring for the first time, and I was like, "Yeah, Imma do this." I was like, I've been around wrestling my whole life, like, and my first moments of, like, being introduced to pro wrestling was with Jake the Snake Roberts getting bit by
Oh,
was letting a snake bite Macho Man,
yeah. Yeah.
and I was like, "Holy shit."
That's a crazy intro.
And then later, like, I would find it all over again, like, late a couple years later, I would find it all over again with Chris Jericho and Rey Mysterio and Dean Malenko and Psychosis, and I see all these cruiserweights, Juventud Guerrera, I see all these cruiserweights, like, doing all this cool stuff, and I was like, "I wanna do that."
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then I just remember, like, growing and then, like, it's funny because like I never thought about it. I was like, yeah, that could be cool. That could be fun to do. And I remember like going to everywhere I went, like wrestling was around. And I think I had brought this up to another worker, and they had said the same thing. They're like, if you're looking for it, it's gonna be there. But I would never be looking. I just walked down our like dorm room one day in our common area, and like on the TV, there's Raw. One of the guys on my wrestling team was a massive wrestling fan. So like I was like, maybe, and I think about it now, and I'm like, maybe it was just a sign pointing me to like, hey,
Yeah.
stupid, you gotta go this way. So I was like, cool, let's get it. And then yeah, so finally I made the jump like in 2020, in January of 2020 actually, and I was like, yo, this is gonna be everything I wanted to do, and it has been. It's been a real treat. I thought wrestling has been like one of those things that like it's rewarding tenfold. Like you said, you needed something to kind of like, all right, I need to get like that competitive juice kind of rolling. And I
Yeah.
think that's what, and yeah, we get it. Okay. It's predetermined, but like it gets you fired up in the same
Oh
aspect because
yeah.
you're
I
like, oh, I
mean,
still gotta
I
do it.
almost have to get more fired up for like wrestling matches than I ever did for any of my fights or anything. Cause when it came to like competing or like kickboxing or MMA, like I'll try to be relaxed, like try to, you don't want to get too amped up, the heart rate spikes, and then a lot of bad things happen. And it's the same in wrestling, honestly. Like I have to have a routine that I kind of go through because I've had some matches where like I just get blown up real quick, real soon. And I hate that. I just like that was that's why I trained so hard when I was competing because I didn't want to get tired when I was fighting. I was just like, that's one of the worst things. Just it's like you can't. It's kind of one of the things you can control for the most part. And I just if you get gassed, it's like it's bad news. So
Yeah.
I would always try to stay calm when I was fighting, but with wrestling, it's a little bit different. You got to be a little bit more animated, a little bit more, maybe a little more energy like basically coming right through that curtain. So, um, yeah, I have a little like routine that I'll do usually if there's space, it's not always,
Yes.
sometimes we're all jammed in a broom closet and it's like,
Yeah.
you can barely do a push up in here.
Yeah. I have like, no, the one thing I have to make sure to have with me every time is a bag full of gummy bears. Because, like, I've gotten to the point where, like, I've gotten so nervous, like, before matches that I
Yeah,
would
yeah,
just, like, I would overthink it, and that would come out way too fast, and then I would be, like, I'd be blown up, right?
yeah, yeah.
So, like, gummy bears, and it doesn't have to be a special kind, right? Just put it out there.
Uh,
It could be just a normal kind. Harborough gummy bears will do just fine. But I would just be snacking on them, and it just
yeah,
takes my mind off
that
of,
helps you calm down.
yeah, take my mind off of everything, because like,
All right.
I have high anxiety anyway, and so, like, for me, just it gives me something else to focus on, and
Yeah.
I just start calming down. Crazy part too is that, obviously the research says that, like, eating, like, a high in sugar is actually good for you right before you go and compete with something, so I'm like,
Okay.
"Okay, cool." So, let me just I was
Yeah,
like, I'll grab, like, a handful,
yeah.
and the funny thing is, like, in Maryland, Delaware, and Pennsylvania, and in West Virginia, like, anybody who's, like, worked with me, like, in that area knows that I have a gummy bag of gummy
Yeah,
bears,
yeah.
and they always come to me, they're like, "Hey,
Right.
yo, Clint,
Hey,
can I
can
get
I
your
get
gummy
some of them
bears?"
gummy bears?
Let me I'm like it's like the 3 things you'll find in my bag, extra wrist tape, gummy bears, and fucking a Sharpie, and everybody's like, "Yo, Cliff's the guy, go get something from him." I'm like, "Stop it, man." Or Tylenol, that's the other one I have in my bag too,
Yeah.
'cause I'm like, "Yo, stop asking me for
Yeah.
stuff, man. Be prepared." Like,
Mine's similar.
yo, let me ask you, man, what's one of the worst bumps you've taken?
Oh man. You know, when I first started, like, so a big thing with me and wrestling, like I'm backtracking a little bit here, but like I wasn't sure if my back was going to explode when I first hit the mat or something. Like that's what I was nervous about. Like I didn't really know what to expect, and that's kind of what maybe slowed me down from kind of getting started. I wasn't really sure, I was just like, and not to say bumps are easy or anything, but having practiced and done it now, it's that they're not as bad as maybe I thought they were gonna be. Um, when I started wrestling, like when I started actually kind of getting matches and taking bookings and stuff, That's when things started to get a little more real, and you might take some people get like some adrenaline, and they maybe put a little too much into some of their stuff or whatever. But so I guess what I'm trying to say is like just a couple, maybe once or twice in a couple of my, within my first 6 months or so, like I took something, I'd be like, oh my God, that was terrible. And it's nothing that anybody did. It's not like they weren't being like safe or anything. I just maybe wasn't expecting it. Maybe I didn't bump right or exhale, kind of like knock the wind out of me a little bit, or just like, um, it was actually pretty simple. I was in a tag match. This just kind of popped in my head because I remember thinking like, oh, that felt way worse than I was expecting. So um it was like I was basically in I'm sitting on the second turnbuckle facing out. So like and then basically they just throw me down.
Mm.
Um that was it, really, nothing crazy, but I don't know. I wasn't expecting the force or the just maybe because also it's in the corner, so that's not the softest part of the ring or anything. The corners are a little bit, a
Right.
little less forgiving.
Yeah.
Um, and then I've had some stuff where it's like I tweaked a shoulder here, or tweaked my this there. Nothing crazy though. Yeah, that was with it. That was one of my first. That was within like my first 6 matches. I didn't really know how much this is. I have this is a little different than bumps, but like strikes, and everybody's a little different. But I fought this gentleman, and he was great. Tom Kwando out in Ohio,
Mm.
and he kicked me in the chest, and I was not anticipating it being that hard. Um, and I just was like, I kind of had like a light bulb go off, like, oh, this is what it is. And that's not to say that's like what it is across the board, because some people just work a little bit stiffer than others or whatever. And yeah, so now pretty much now when I work with anybody, I'm pretty much bracing for the hardest shit I've ever taken every time, unless I've worked with them before or something, just so I don't get any surprises, or kind of anything that knocks the wind out of me. Like I got like flash KO'd
Mm.
because somebody called a slap. It was like a called thing. He's like, all right, I'm gonna slap you. I'm like, okay, and I'm like, whatever. And I was not. It's not actually that funny, but because I'm pretty I don't know. I take the head trauma stuff pretty seriously, but um I got like flash KO'd. Like I basically I went down, I caught myself, but then like I came to and I was like, oh shit, there's a match happening. So that was another wake up. That was early on too, where I like just didn't really expect that kind of thing to happen at that point. It was just, I guess it's kind of a shitty like lesson to learn, but I don't know, it's probably a lesson everybody learns at some point a little bit.
Yeah. 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 I recently had one of those too. I did a drop kick off the middle turnbuckle and I was supposed to hit the guy and I think I just like overshot a little too far and just smacked my head on the back of the mat
Yeah.
and was just out. And
Oh,
I just remember being I wasn't it was weird. So I was out, but then like I heard like the slow clap. And so like I knew that was my
that
point to
woke you
get up.
back up.
Bro, so like,
Oh
yo, I
no.
have the match. It is ridiculous.
Oh
The
man.
only time
I hope you're all right, dude. That's scary.
yeah, so I remember like, well, yeah, and this was like back in November, so I'm a lot better now. But yeah, so it happened, and so like the claps happening, right? And I get up and like I'm trying to tell, and it's a triple threat match versus like this crazy part, right? So the second guy's kind of out, and I want to go tell the other person that I'm not there, and the ref thought I was okay because I guess like I might have just responded. just instinctively.
Yeah.
So I walk over and I put my hand on my opponent's shoulder and he bumped. And like it's not like I hit him. It was more like a
Uh,
hey, boom. I was like, oh, that's not what was supposed to happen.
oh, yeah.
Because I was supposed to throw a clothesline. So I was like,
Mm,
bro, like I'm not good. And that's what I was trying to tell him. So at one point, like he's like, yo, do something. I was like, bro, I'm not good. I'm kind of loopy. Where are we at? And he was just like, all right, just give me some shots and then pick me up. And the rest of the match went off the way it was supposed to go. But yeah, for like a
that's good.
quick, for a good like 15 seconds, yeah, I was like, I got knocked out, and for like 3 seconds, I got back up and like was trying to like sell, and then I heard the crowd clapping, and that's when I was like, okay, I gotta get up. I gotta at least tell him that I'm not good right now.
Yeah.
And people, yeah, I was like, yo, this is not fun.
Yeah, I mean, I'm careful. I try to be real careful with anything, that I'm doing to anyone's head, and then if anybody's doing anything to my head, like, and I realized you were just doing your own drop kick, so it's
Yeah,
like, um, yeah, like those like shotgun drop kicks are like,
yeah,
that's the thing. I'll try to like avoid things where I might be giving offense, but then I take like a bunch of damage from it somehow, like that's it. I've done a decent amount of those. Not off the second, but
yeah.
um, you know.
I was grateful that like everything worked out the way it worked out, and like everybody was like, yeah, we're fine. I was like, yo, but I remember going to wrestling practice like the next week, and I was like, listen, like, because I had missed like that week. Let's say I got injured on a Sunday, I missed a whole week, and then the next week I went back to wrestling practice, and they're like, hey, where you been? I was like, listen, bro, like I'm coming back from concussion,
Yeah, yeah.
and I'm really not trying to take any bumps. And everybody
Yeah.
was like, oh yeah, no, great, bro. Like at least you're taking that seriously,
No,
and we're
yeah,
like, I can roll
100%.
around and stuff like that, and just work on some stuff and try to figure some things out. But I'm not really trying to
No.
no, yeah, definitely, we're just gonna keep you okay. And I was like, all right, bet. And then one of the other guys went to do head takeover, and then I just do a full flip bump.
Mm,
Instead of rolling over,
yeah,
I
yeah.
was like, yo, of course this is the way I'm just gonna go into this. No, all right, so I like talk about wrestling, but this is one of the rare times where I get to talk to somebody about some like mixed martial arts and talk to them about like just like the landscape and stuff like that, man. So what drove you into wanting to get into MMA?
Yeah, that's a pretty good question. My friends from high school, so this was, many moons ago at this point, but
Yeah.
they were into like traditional martial arts. Like, there was a kung fu school in my town. There wasn't really any like, jujitsu in 2001, 2, 3 was, very rare. Not to date myself, but anyway, um, so yeah, my friends are into like kung fu and stuff, but then martial arts movies, which I was into as well, and all that. And then yeah, I don't know how they found it, but we just found like Pride and the UFC, and this was back in when there was only maybe 5, 6 UFCs a year, so it was
Mhm.
always like a pretty big deal, like bi-monthly, like it's UFC night. We would always get so stoked, and it'd be like 5 matches. That's it. They didn't show prelims. There wasn't like it was 5 fights, and that was it. And so it was always just like a big deal. We just got like really into it. We even like my buddy had maybe like one of those like Gracie books that was like beginner level jujitsu stuff. We would like try to practice stuff. We even did some like kind of like fights in like high school. I had like a little club.
Nice.
But yeah.
You want to talk about
Nobody got
football?
messed up, but nobody got like seriously injured or anything. But yeah, we did some like kind of like little fights with like boxing gloves on and like submissions and stuff. But and so when I when I left my friend, these two friends of mine actually both joined the Marine Corps out of high school, and I went to college. I went to Temple in
Mm,
Philadelphia, and while I'm looking at schools, I'm also looking to see if there's MMA gyms in the area. So I was looking. I don't know. I really kind of was locked in on Temple. I might have looked at like I don't know if I would have got in, but like Penn State and that was about it. I wanted to go to a state school. So there was some mixed martial arts gyms in Philly at the time. You know, it was a pretty new thing still. It was like, and honestly, the one I went to is one of the only ones that was kind of like providing both. They had both Muay Thai classes and Jiu-Jitsu classes, which is pretty common now. But back then, that was like, you know, that was. This is before the Ultimate Fighter. Like that didn't even exist yet. Like that reality show had not come out. So like this was still pretty like hard, like NHB. Like it was only legal in like Jersey and Nevada. You know, it was, again, the early day amateur fighting was not a thing yet. You know, I was involved in a lot of that stuff when it first came out. But yeah, so like basically went to college the spring the fall of 2004, and like the couple days after I got to campus, I went and signed up at the MMA gym down in South Philly, and that was like kind of like I guess like what I wanted to do. I mean, I got a degree and everything, but you know, I was kind of, I don't know, I'm doing okay, but yeah, it was like I kind of just always wanted to be like an athlete or, you know, a fighter or something. So that was kind of, I don't know. It was just, I just kind of like go where the wind takes me sometimes. And you can't always be that way.
Right.
I am so lucky. We could get into some stuff. Like my wife is amazing. And I would not be anywhere near where I'm at right now in anything without her. But which is part of what motivates me to like try to be successful in this, to kind of pay her back for everything that she sacrificed so that I can pursue some, you know, this stupid dream thing. but you know, that was 2004. So we just got really into it in high school for a few years. You know, this was like the Tito Ortiz, Chuck Liddell, Vitor Belfort when he first was starting, and then the Pride stuff was like Mirko Krokop, Fedor,
Rampage.
Yeah, Rampage, Vanderlei Silva. Those are the guys that I like still are like, you know, look up to, or like
brothers.
exactly.
We could wrap this all.
Matt Hughes. I
go,
was a big
go.
GSP guy.
Pat,
I wanted to maybe start calling myself the GSP of professional wrestling, but I don't know if that'd fly.
Hey, you know, there'll be some crossover. Some people will get that.
You know, I almost just think it's funny. Like what does that even mean? But
yeah,
he was one of the first guys that was like so good at everything, you know. Like I was talking about this with my wife the other day.
but he was one of those guys that like he like when he understood like a weak point, like he like utilized that to like to focus like his game up better, right? Because like he got beat by Matt Hughes, right, in wrestling, right, not pro wrestling, but he got out wrestled, and so what did he do? Instead of like going to the board and like crying about it, he just started training with the Canadian national team.
Yeah,
and they even told him, they're like, yeah, you can compete on our team.
Yeah,
actually. Probably medal
that's
if you're
that's the thing that happened. I remember that. Yeah, he was like, he's amazing. I would love to meet him one day. That's what draws me to like. That's what I don't know. There's something about my personality that I like. That's what drew me to mixed martial arts too. Is like the fact that you needed to be so good at so many different things. I don't know. There's something about that I really like. Like during the Olympics, I like the decathlon. It's not on TV a lot, but like that's just something that kind of interests me. Like who's the best at like everything collectively. I know they might not be. I think that's kind of like this is like part of the issue. It's like they might not be the best at any one thing, but across the board, they're very good at all these different things. And that's kind of, I don't know, something about that kind of trait, that kind of, you know, like, what do they call it? Like master of all trades, or jack of all trades type of thing.
But it's interesting, right? Because like Sorry, not that I will
No,
cut you
you're
off,
good.
but it's one of those things I love this. So, but like when martial arts, when UFC one started in McNichols Arena, shout out to Denver, Colorado. Uh, uh, everybody had a specialty, right? Like
Yes.
obviously Hoist was like the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy, right? You had this amazing wrestler in Ken Shamrock. You had guys who were good strikers. You had all these like incredible talents that were coming through, right? Not really understanding like the whole world, but then like GSP came in, he's like, all right, you got to be good at like everything, not just one or two things. You got to be good at everything. But then, like, now, if you look at it, like the UFC has changed, like mixed martial arts has changed again. And I say the UFC in particular because Bo Nickel is like this elite grappler. And he's really great at submissions and his ground game in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. And then he's this amazing boxer who's only been
Is he?
boxing for like 2 years. It's so crazy to watch someone like him like grow. I remember like a few years back, man, I had actually called it. When for those who watched this program a long time, Luda franchise, and we used to host this podcast called Get the KO. And God, man, it was like 2014. I'd called it like Aljamain Sterling had just started in the UFC, and I was like, that guy's gonna be a future world champion. And he was like, no, he's not. And then sure enough, like 6 years later, here's this man like holding a title, right? 6, 7 years later, he's holding a title. And I was like, bro, like it's so crazy to see that you cannot just be average at everything. You have to have an elite skill, and then you have to be great at the other two. Plus,
Yeah.
like your cardio game has to be on point too.
Yeah.
Like let's not front. Like Clay Guida was just
Yeah.
known for having a motor and
Yeah.
just running all day on people.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating to me. I mean, and I mean, this is kind of like maybe not like controversial, but like I almost think like that's like people always, especially wrestling fans, that are maybe also combat sports fans, they kind of love the old stuff, like the style matchups in the '90s, like the UFCs, and then the Pride was very like, you know, here's this 400-pound guy versus this 160-pound guy, you know, like uh but
Bob Sapp. That's all I think about when I
right,
think of a guy,
yeah,
big
those
ass
kind of
dudes.
matches. And I'll admit that stuff's very entertaining. And it's almost like now the UFC is like, it's almost like, I don't know, it's kind of boring because everybody is so great at like everything that nobody really stands out. Is that
Yep,
you think
that makes
that's
sense.
real? Yeah, I mean, you know, that's kind of an issue I have with it a little bit. And like, and that's kind of what I like about, I think that's maybe what like wrestling fans like is there's still a lot of like stylistic kind of matchups.
Yeah,
I know it's not real or predetermined or whatever. So, but it's still like this, you know, it's sort of like two people with different styles sort of portraying this like fight or this whatever this wrestling match.
yep,
And I think that's what's intriguing to a lot of people, and I think that's kind of cool that that still exists in wrestling. I mean, with that being said, same thing I was saying about what drew me to mixed martial arts in terms of like being a jack of all trades. It's I feel like it's the same in wrestling. You have to be so good at so many different things if you want to be really good, in my
yep,
opinion. Like you got to have great cardio. You got to have, you know, you do need to have some type of level of. You don't have to be the strongest guy in the world, but like you do have to have some type of level of strength. You know, it's a still a very it's an incredibly athletic thing, especially the people that are doing it at the highest level. They are like some of the best athletes in the world in their own unique way. I realize they might not, you know, they'd probably lose a real fight to whatever some you know some unranked guy in the UFC, but like that's not really what it's about. It's entertainment. It's about, you know, enjoying what you're watching, and so on top of all those things, being athletic, whatever, having a certain skill set, whether you're a high flyer, like a submission type guy, or a striker, or a power move, you know, suplexes and throws, like you got to be entertaining. You know, you have
yep.
to. That's a whole nother skill set. So You have to be
You
really
got
good at a lot of different things.
yeah, and I think that's where that's where for me MMA and like wrestling, pro wrestling, like come together, right? Because like you hit it right on the nail, right? Like the nail right on the head is that like great. So you're an excellent wrestler, right? You're an excellent. You have great cardio. You have great wrestling. You know what else can you bring to the table, right? And like if you look in the UFC, great. You have great wrestling, you're a great submission artist, and you're great at fighting, and you have great cardio. What else can you bring? And then you look at someone like Conor McGregor,
Yeah.
right? And what makes Conor separate from everybody else is that he's a great character.
Yep.
Like he knows how to rile up crowds, he knows how to rile up people,
Yep.
and then people pay attention. They pay to watch him get beat, right?
Yep.
If he gets beat. And then if he wins, they just pisses them off even more. And it's like you see this with wrestling, like great wrestling characters like stand out and they make you want to watch them, which is like what's hard for me with like I don't want to say like I don't like WWE. I love WWE, right? My problem though is that everybody's a great character, everybody's a great wrestling. So now I'm looking for the X factor of what makes you different from everybody else. And like I'm studying those kind of characters, right? Like I love Macho Man, right? Because the Macho Man, like he was great. He's a great character, right? He was a great wrestler. His timing is what separated him from everybody else.
Hmm.
And I'm like, yo, like I started breaking down like how do I get that? You know,
Yeah.
obviously you got to be in the ring a lot, right? So you're gonna
Yeah.
have to do a lot of matches. But like everything mattered in those senses. And you have to find out one extra thing that makes you so much more unique than everybody else. And I think that's where I'm at now, like watching and like understanding and breaking stuff down. Cause I'm like, cool, you're able to do these things. But I think for like me, like the closest person that I would say is equivalent to like a Macho Man as far as like the timing goes is like you have like Seth Rollins, but really Orange Cassidy is one of those guys too because
Hmm.
I like watching him. He's a great
Yeah.
character. Plus, I don't know. I don't know if I've seen a match where he's been out of timing and out of position. Like
Oh
he's
yeah.
just always there
I mean, so
between
I'm
Fire Ant and being OC. Like
yeah, like so you kind of you hit so he was one of my trainers, one of the people I trained with the most at the Wrestle Factory, and also then his character Fire Ant and the Colony are they were my favorite. So
yeah.
like these I always like kind of credit those guys for just lighting the fire under my ass and kind of motivated me to kind of get into it. I have so much respect for those dudes. It's yeah, it's amazing. The guys that were given, you're an ant, and then they made it work and it was awesome. Like it's just so good, and to see the kind of what a lot of them have accomplished and continue to accomplish in professional wrestling is just incredible to me. Um yeah, so one thing you said I really like is like, and I say this a lot, and it always kind of bugs people a little bit, but like how similar wrestling and pro wrestling and MMA are, and I don't know many of the details with all the like the business merger, but I know they're all like under at WWE and the UFC are under like one kind of
Yeah.
umbrella now or something, right? And it's because they're so similar. It's really the same thing. You're just trying to entice people to like buy a fight or like you're like this thing and so like exactly what you said, the draw before, at least a long time ago, it might have been like the styles and like and don't get me wrong, watching two people that are like at the top of their game, best in the world, that's still an awesome thing to watch. But the thing that's going to set a lot of MMA guys apart now is like, and this is probably frustrating for some of them, is like how they promote themselves and like how they talk and like kind of being a character. We've seen this with what's his name, and he's annoying as hell. Colby Covington, right?
Colby
Like,
Covington.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know the guy. I've heard he's maybe actually a nice person, or I've heard he's actually an asshole. I don't actually know. I don't know him at all. But I don't really like his character that he portrays. Um, but that's kind of like he's trying to be a heel, you know, he's trying to be an MMA heel or whatever,
Yep.
or kind of just, and that's kind of like weird to some people, but it works. Like people want to see him get his ass kicked, or like you said, they get upset when Connor was the best at it because I don't know. I used to know this stat, but like, he's lost like 6 of his last 7 fights or something, and he's still the top draw in the sport.
Yep.
Probably, like, it's ludicrous. It's absolutely insane. But it's because he's so good at talking. So, I mean, it's the same in pro wrestling. It's very similar. You can, we didn't kind of touch on it a whole lot. We talked about all the skills that are make it necessary for you to be really great, but really the promotional stuff and the talking aspect are really probably the most important part, because that's really what gets butts in seats and eyes on screens, which is what the shit wouldn't exist if you couldn't do that. Like if nobody's buying it, then it's not making any money, then it doesn't exist. So I realize there's a lot of layers to this, like there's guys that are like the draws, like the promo guys, and maybe they're not the most athletic dudes. They don't do the craziest stuff, but like they're really good at hyping matches up and getting people excited for that. And then you have what do they call it? Like mid-card guys or whatever.
Yep.
That are like just like really good wrestlers, and they have like really good matches. And like, they're not necessarily like what people are buying the thing for, but they're a great like appetizer on the way to that main event.
Yeah.
In terms of like a pay-per-view card, or even like a just a normal like Monday Night Raw or Dynamite kind of thing. So, yeah, I mean, wrestling's nuts,
Wrestling is it's crazy because you look at guys like, right, so we can take it into the mixed martial arts world, right? You look at someone like MVP, right, Michael Venom Page.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, welcome to the world of he's gonna be debuting in the UFC. But he is like an excellent shit talker. Like he will talk trash to you and then just beat your ass. And then like his showmanship in the ring is what kind of like set him apart, especially with Bellator and Strikeforce. And you look at those guys, because I mean, like, listen, like everybody loved Ronda Rousey in mixed martial arts until she lost, right? But she wasn't evolving her game. She was really dependent on her judo, and she was really depending on her submissions, right? And then she got into the ring with Amanda Nunes, and Amanda Nunes showed that not only is she pretty good at judo, she knew just enough to get by with her defense, and then she knocked out.
Yeah, well, it was Holly Holm first, right? And then what? Nunes.
Yeah, so Holly, and you know what's funny is that Ronda, I don't know if you saw the interview with Jimmy Kimmel right before the fight with Holly, but she's like, yeah, I'm not going to be getting knocked out by a head kick. And that's what happened. And then a whole year later,
that's real.
And then a whole year later, here she is. And like, that's what I was saying, like Amanda, who is a pretty good showmanship herself, right? She was always walking around with the lion's mask. And then she had, she was okay at like talking, but she had really great hands. And then she knew how to defend like a lot of judo, right? And she's great Brazilian jiu-jitsu artist as well.
Yeah.
And so she went in there and just showed how like Ronda was on one level, but like she was on a whole nother level as well. And it was such a powerful thing to watch. And you're like, man. And then at the end, what did she do? She posted up a picture of her pushing a stroller with Ronda in the seat. I was like, yo, this is what we're talking about. See, I love people like that. I love people who can just shit talk and keep shit talking.
Yeah, it definitely in mixed martial arts, I guess, it's been around for forever in combat sports. Like that's Muhammad Ali was a phenomenal boxer, but like so good at talking and like and hyping stuff up.
Floyd.
Yeah, Floyd. Because again, it's not like his fights were spectacular. I mean, he's obviously one of the best to ever do it, but they weren't like these Deontay Wilder fights or like before him, like Mike Tyson. Like I compare Ronda's run to like Tyson's, where it was just how fast is she gonna tap her opponent out? Like She even did get a couple TKOs in there, I think, but like, yeah, I mean, she eventually so it kind of caught up to her, like her not really evolving past her like really strong judo background and her not really developing much of a striking, too much of a striking game. But she was definitely she was the I give her so much credit. Like she was the top draw. You know, a female was the top draw in a combat sport in the entire world. Like
Yep.
there was no one. She was the she was the biggest ticket, and I feel like that's definitely something she can hang her hat on for the rest of her life. Like, who I know she probably has a lot of haters for the way her career kind of ended, but like whatever, she kind of revolutionized the sport and really kind of set women's MMA on the map.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're talking about a guy like Dana saying women will never fight in the
Yeah,
UFC,
I
and then here
know.
comes Ronda,
Yeah,
and then he bought Strike Force
yeah,
just to get Ronda. I was like, bro,
yeah.
that's crazy. Zuffa was just like, yeah, we'll just shell it out and get it done. Uh, Listen, I guess I should track this back, right? Back to the wrestling side of things. But what's one of the hardest lessons you've had to learn being in the business?
Man, I don't know. That's tough. Hardest. I don't know. That's hardest lessons. I don't know. I have some. I have some like. I guess. I guess I could say this stuff. I mean, I have some like kind of pessimistic views on some things sometimes. Like, you know, well, I guess I shouldn't frame it like that, but I think wrestling is, since it's an entertainment, like a form of entertainment. It doesn't necessarily matter how hard you work, or like basically you're not really necessarily in control of your own fate like you maybe would be in mixed martial arts. Like even that though, like guys win fights and then still don't get title shots or whatever because somebody, Dana or whoever, doesn't think there would be a draw or whatever for whatever reason. Um, and pro wrestling's obviously the kind of the other end of the spectrum. Like, you know, it's doesn't necessarily, again, you're just kind of not in control of your own fate. Like you can the cream kind of does rise to the top, but I'm sure we could think of examples of people that just like were killing it on a like a lower tier of wrestling companies. It just never really broke through to the top, like to whatever
Yeah,
got into WWE because there's only so many spots, and then there's a couple people that are kind of the ones that make all the decisions. And again, it's an entertainment business. It's not like legitimate sport or anything. So it's not like you can, like, oh, I'm winning all my matches. Like, none of that matters. But uh so I feel like that kind of, not that I didn't know that, but like I feel like it's become more and more clear to me over these last year or two, that like it doesn't matter how hard I bust my butt or anything. Um, it just might not be in the cards, like I don't know. I've had to like I've had to maybe, and you kind of mentioned this earlier. Like I have similar issues with, I can have high anxiety and other things. Like I've done a lot of stuff to help with like mental preparation before matches or just kind of leading into things. Like, um, there's this guy Brian Kane. He's like a mental performance coach for a lot of athletes. Like he works with UFC guys and like baseball. He's really kind of was into baseball at first for like pitchers and stuff because those guys are dealing with the highest pressure situations. It's like
yeah,
it's a World Series and you get, if you fuck up, you let everybody down and the millions of fans and all that kind of stuff. There's like so much pressure when it comes to sports. And I put so much pressure on myself for, wrestling down the street in front of like 50 people or whatever, maybe less. And I, I feel like the weight of the world sometimes. And so, yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, I would put that pressure because I would always be worried that or think like, somebody's gonna see somebody might see this or whatever. And I was talking to somebody the other day, and it's like every match is important, but no match is special. If that,
Mm.
I guess, if that makes sense. It's like I've been trying to kind of like not put so much weight on every single match, and trying to relax and trying to have more fun in the moment. Um, this is, I feel like a lot of this is sort of like, uh, what's the word? Like stuff you've heard before, but like, um, I'm trying to enjoy the journey, not worry
Mm.
about the destination, that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
A lot of that kind of stuff. So, in terms of like lessons that I've learned, like that's what I've been trying to do more. It's like I've almost been trying to get like retire from trying to get signed or whatever, because I just like put so much pressure on myself, and it's making things like not fun. I don't enjoy it. I want to stop.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to like turn things around and like, just get in a better mindset about all this stuff, and trying to, because again, kind of like what we were talking about earlier, like we're not spring chickens, I don't know, these guys that are making these decisions. um I'll say I had somebody in my inbox at one point, from a prominent company or something, and when it got to how old I was, I stopped getting messages. So like it's just, certain companies aren't interested in anyone over 25 or whatever, just because they want to build you from the ground up, kind of
Yeah.
thing. Eh, so um Yeah, I mean, I know that was kind of a broad answer, but I guess, yeah, like short, just to kind of make things a little more concise. It's like we're not necessarily in control of our own fate, but you can't worry about what you can't control,
Yeah.
and that's big when it comes to like, just focusing on what you can control helps with my nerves and with my anxiety, because there's certain things I worry about all the time, but a lot of it is just outside of the scope of anything that I could. There's nothing I can do about it. So like, why am I letting it bother me? But this, all this stuff comes with a lot of practice, and just like, yeah, I've been seeing my own like kind of sports performance coach to kind of help with this kind of stuff, because yeah, I just get, you know, I'd get real nervous for fights too, like MMA fights, a long time ago, and I probably lost a match or two from just my mental. Like I was just like, I remember getting in the ring one time and I could barely hold my hands up. Like I was just toasted, and we hadn't even started the fight yet. It was just like,
Mm.
I think it was just from nerves. My heart rate probably had been going for like 24 hours or more, and I just couldn't calm myself down because it was just so amped up.
I
But
can
yeah.
share stories. I can share a story with you off air. You guys don't get that kind of privilege. I'll share a story with you off air. That you'll be like, oh shit, and then we could talk about it, because I can relate to where you're coming from, especially when you're just so like you have so much energy and so amped up, and then all of a sudden like you're not hitting full performance like you need to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could definitely I'll relate with you about that. But we're gonna jump into my favorite part of the podcast, which is the 3 count podcast, 10 count questions. And Mr. Makowski, this is how it's gonna work. I'm gonna fire off 10 questions at you rapid fast, and whatever your answer is your answer.
All right, I'm gonna try.
All right, so we're gonna put on the imaginary timer for added pressure.
Okay.
Ding. And in the words of my favorite commentator, Mike Goldberg, here we go. SmackDown or Raw?
Raw.
Favorite movie?
Predator.
Apple or Android?
Android.
Favorite cartoon?
X-Men, the animated series.
Let's
X-Men.
go. PlayStation or Xbox?
PlayStation.
Favorite actor?
Tom Hanks
I like it.
or Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Either one. KOs or submission?
Oh man, I mean, KO.
Those are always fun.
I know I'm a sub guy, but yeah.
Favorite podcast?
Um, I can't remember the name of it. But it'd be probably the Brian Kane podcast, the guy, the mental performance coach. I've gotten a lot of great things from that.
Okay, cool. Nominate one person that you want to see on this podcast.
Um, maybe maybe a Travis Huckabee. Has he ever been here?
No, he has not.
He's on that grind show that we were talking about earlier. He's probably
Yeah.
wrestling maybe right now on IWTV.
And last but not least, my favorite question to ask every single person who comes on this podcast: favorite curse word.
Favorite curse word?
Yeah.
I don't know. Probably the F word.
Hey, don't worry. Fuck is allowed on this.
Okay.
So, yeah. We're not getting. Listen. We know that we're never getting monetized by YouTube because like the stuff we talk about on the show. Yeah. So we're okay with that.
I got you.
But no, man, that's all my questions for you. So the last thing I need from you is to let everybody know, our listeners and our viewers know where they can find you.
Oh, I'm on Twitter at or X at the Matt Makowski and Instagram at Matthew Makowski.
Well, there you go. He told you where you can find him, gave you his handle, so you guys know what to do. Go look him up and give him a follow. But like my favorite part of wrestling match, we gotta take this home because this is the 3 Count Podcast. Just ends now entering, and I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. But like I said, it's never about me. It's about who's in the ring. So who's in the ring? You see him right there. Weapon X himself, Matt Makowski. You guys know what to do. Tune in to the next episode and be there. Or you're really just subscribing to our YouTube channel. You're following us on Spotify. You're even listening to us on Amazon Music because we're there too. Or on iHeartRadio or whatever that dumb jingle is that they do. You're buying our merch on Pro Wrestling Tees or on foryourwear.com. You're sharing this with your friends, your family, your mom, your dog, your enemies, because we love haters too. You're doing all that stuff, you're liking this content, or you're really just kind of waiting for this episode to end. You're waiting for the outro, and then you're choosing another episode to listen to. Kawaii. What's going on? It is Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. And what we need from you guys is to kind of show some support, right? We want you guys to go to our YouTube channel at the 3 Count Podcast, go on to our Twitch channel, 3 Count Pod, or even our Facebook page, 3 Count Podcast, and just give us a like, follow, subscribe, even give us a comment, right? Do all that cool stuff. Share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it with your enemies, right? Or you can even come talk to us and just chat us up, right? Find us on Twitter at 3count_pod. Find us on IG and on TikTok at 3 Count Pod. Go ahead and leave us those comments. We want to hear from all of you guys. We're going to keep putting on videos and stuff like that. We want to keep making this content better, so we want your guys' support. Also, if you guys want to, go support us at prowrestlingtees.com/the 3 Count Podcast, or even find us on foryourwear.com. Give us the support. Show us your guys' love because we want to give it right back to y'all. So, in the meantime, between time, love y'all.